Now, I'm sure you've all seen this as a basic introduction to perspective. It's the railway lines going off into the distance and meeting or appearing to meet at this vanishing point on the horizon. And the horizon line invariably in any landscape picture is at the same point as your eye level, and we'll look at that a little bit more in a moment or two. But let's look at something a little bit more artistic than these railway lines. Right, now that's a little bit more attractive to look at, isn't it? You've got the Taj Mahal in India, but you can see many of the elements are included in this photograph that are similar to the railway lines. We've got this horizon line at the base of the building, and then you can imagine we've got the whole series of lines that follow the lines of the edges of the pool. You can even take a line following the line of the trees, but you can see this one stands out right away because it doesn't reach up to this imaginary line of perspective. Right, now that's fine up to a point, providing you've got a building that's symmetrical on both sides. You have a pool that's right in the centre of it that naturally forms its own lines of perspective. That's great. But what happens when things aren't quite that straightforward? Well, let's have a look now. Remember the eye level or the horizon line, that's the level at which you are standing or sitting or looking. So your eye level, if you're 6 foot tall, anything that you're looking at in the distance, your eye level will be 6 foot off the ground. If you're standing on a ladder and you're 15 feet off the ground, then in the distance your eye level will rise accordingly, and that'll be 15 feet off the ground. Right, now the good news is again, is although we've used this ruler to draw these guidelines, these perspective lines, which we'll rub out later on, you don't need to use any of the measurements on the ruler or any calculations to work out how to get the correct perspective. You can draw these guidelines as many or as few as you want at any angle that you want, providing they all radiate from the same point, the vanishing point, like the spokes on a wheel. Now, if we wanted to produce a building which was a 3/4 view and our eye level was about 3/4 of the way up the front door, which is our, if you like, probably a normal standing position, this is what it would look like. We can take any two of these guidelines that we've drawn and draw a line from top to bottom, in this case like that. All we're going to do is make sure it's vertical to represent the side of the building. Then we can draw another line which will be also vertical, and that'll be the corner of the building. On this side we'll have the building, say I don't know, let's say that wide. Okay, now you can see already probably how if I draw lines there and there and there and there, simply following these perspective lines, immediately I've got a box shape which is the basis of our building, a 3/4 view, and it's correctly in perspective because all the perspective lines of the top and the base of the building are heading towards the vanishing point on either side of the paper. Another vertical line for the side of the door, another vertical line there, and this time we're going to use that guideline, which is not quite as steep an angle, but it gives us a perfectly positioned and a correct door that's in the right perspective. Now you can see, having put another window in here, having used two other perspective lines, one of which happens to be the eye line, then that's also in correct perspective. If we put a window here that's a little bit lower, using yet two more different lines, then that's in perspective. And you can see very quickly, just by using those lines, how you automatically get the perspective correct. So there we are with the standing position, if you like. If you take a ruler and you draw in some more guidelines, notice I'm not making any attempt to measure anything. I'm only doing them lightly because, as I said before, they're going to get rubbed out. I'll do one more like that. And as you can see, absolutely no measuring involved. Now you can see this time, whereas we had guidelines above and below our eye line, this time there's no guidelines above our eye line. Our eye line is effectively at the top of the building that we're going to draw. And let's see how this works. Again, we draw a vertical line. This time from the eye line, we'll have the corner of the building here where these guidelines intersect. Now I've sketched in some windows and a door here, and you can see right away that because the perspective lines are all below my eye level or my horizon line, that I've actually automatically lifted myself up in the air as if I was looking out of my bedroom window. Right, for those of us who've been out celebrating sometime or over celebrating and literally crawled up the road, we might recognise this view. Now there we are. Because all of these guidelines are above our eye level, automatically we are looking up at the building, and you can see where the vanishing point was originally. I've actually brought it in here and made these guidelines much steeper, and that helps to accentuate that feeling that we're really right down on the ground looking upwards. Not so difficult, is it? Just think of where these guidelines go. You choose, you don't have to measure them, put as many or as few in as you like, and just follow the guidelines to automatically get your perspective the correct way before you start painting. Now you can see this horizon eye level thing works just the same even without a building. Here we've painted this red road going off into the distance, and we've put the horizon or your eye level well above the halfway point of the picture. And if you can imagine this represents the bottom of your painting, then you've got something like 4 inches between the bottom of your painting and the horizon line. And you can see that you're actually appear to be looking down on this figure, and the figure's head is well below the horizon line. Now imagine if this is the bottom of the painting and we've brought the horizon line down to within an inch or so of the bottom of your picture. You can see what happens. Not only is the road, that S in the road, much more compressed, but the figure's head and shoulders rise far above the distant hills, and the horizon line or your eye line actually runs through the figure's waist, which suggests that you would be sitting down or crouching down to take this sort of view. So you can see how you can raise yourself up or down in the viewpoint simply by the position of the horizon line or your eye line in your picture. Right, now just for a moment I've come back to these houses that I drew earlier, and I've added a roof on each of them. But on this view here, where we're up in the air, we see most of the roof. On this view here, where we're about normal standing height, you can see how we can only see about 50% of the roof compared to this view. And on this view here, where we've crawled up the pathway after a heavy night at the pub, you can see that we've got just the merest hint of the roof in view.